Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another edition of On the Record presented by Called It. I'm your host, Andy Burke, and as always, we are completely thrilled to be here with you for about the next half hour or so as we unveil the daily call and our top pick for the run, the challenge. We're Called It. The team there looks to turn $250 all the way into a million. The run does start over. Now, unfortunately, with Egypt and Iran, that ended in a draw. Now, the team at Called It had Egypt winning it, had the early goal, did not come to fruition. So once again, the run begins back at trade numero uno. And look, we're going to try to get it to two because here we have a great slate of soccer today. How about Brazil? How about Japan? How about a trade in that match? That's where the team is looking at today. And to help us get all of the thoughts surrounding that, we have Cormac Lichty, we have Maya Campion, and we have a good time in store because we will talk about that match. We will talk about a futures market with the African nation that we believe will go the furthest in the World Cup, something you can trade on at Kalshi. And then now that we've gotten pretty far into the World Cup, heading into the round of 32, we'll do a brief recap a couple weeks in and see where Maya and Cormac have their favorite memories and storylines so far, and just some of the favorite moments surrounding the World Cup. So I'm excited to hear which areas they pick out for that. But let's go ahead and bring in the crew for today. Maya, we will kick it to you first because, of course, one of our favorite segments on this program is Where in the World is Maya Campion? Maya, if I'm not mistaken, you are in the Great White North. You're in Canada, right?
I am. I went from Seattle to Canada, Amtrak experience, incredible. And I am in Vancouver here for a few days.
Beautiful. So you're in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, now Vancouver. Do you think Vancouver is gonna be able to live up to the hype that you had in Seattle? I know you're having a wonderful time there. Are you gonna be doing as much exploring up there?
It's a tough question. It's a tough question. I think that I still need, a little bit more time. It's huge. It's huge. Like, there's so much to see here, so I'm excited. I just arrived yesterday, so there's a lot in store. I have a list of things that I wanna do here. I'll let you know after. I'll give you my full recap.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Make sure you guys follow Maya on Instagram, Maya.pitchside. She's been posting great content. Got featured on the main FIFA page as well. So she's emerging out there. She is thriving at all these World Cup games. So make sure you guys follow her content, Maya.pitchside. Also, some great content to follow our guy Cormac Lichty at Cormac_United on both Instagram and TikTok. Cormac, I was giving you your flowers before the show, my man. I mean, you were on the program Friday. We were talking about the trade for Egypt to win over Iran. You said, I think the draw is a better outlook, and that's exactly what happened. So props to you, my friend. How you doing today?
You know what? I am doing absolutely fantastic. This is my first day, 24 years of age, so
That's right.
moving
Happy
up in the world,
birthday,
I
man.
suppose. And thank you. And I should also say, you know what? I actually was also featured on the World Cup official page. If you look in the comment section, I've been commenting. They didn't post me, but I'm getting on the page nonetheless, I suppose, if you think about it. But no, you know, a fantastic weekend. Happy for Canada to get the win. It was a great birthday gift, and excited for the show today.
There we go. See, Cormac still has his birthday luck trailing into today. So whatever he says, I'm thinking we still got the good mojo going with it. So yes, of course, happy belated birthday once again to Cormac. Officially, it was yesterday, correct?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, man. Well, again, happy birthday to you, and looking forward to your thoughts for today's match, which again is going to circulate around the match of the first one today, 1 p.m. Eastern time between Brazil and Japan. So if we move over to Kalshi right now, we can see the current numbers this is trading at. For Brazil to advance, 73% chance is what the market's telling us, which comes out to about minus 306 American odds on the yes. If you think the underdog, Japan, comes through, 27% chance, which equates to plus 252 for the American odds. But as you see on the right side of the screen, and as I go down right here, the regulation time, total goals scored, the over for 2.5 is trading currently at 46%, which comes out to a yes price of plus 109. So the daily call from the team, and make sure you subscribe, CalledIt.media, because you can get a hold of it earlier, and they're giving you an entire breakdown, full analysis of everything they have with their information regarding it, and plenty more. The trade is on the yes over 2.5 goals from the team at CalledIt. So that is a daily call, and that is going to be trade number 1 of our challenge, the run, turning this $250 investment and trying to flip it and roll it over into trade number 2 and hopefully work all the way up to 1 million US dollars. But they traded it at 47%. So now it's kind of dropping a little bit, as you can see there, 46%. But earlier, it even got even higher to about 48%. But CalledIt, nonetheless, believes that the true chances are 50%. So some value to be had potentially with over 2.5 goals. Now, again, this is regulation time, not extra. This is regulation, just in 90 minutes. Maya, let's throw it out to you. 2.5, Brazil and Japan. Are there going to be plenty of goals scored in this game, in your estimation?
I'm feeling like whatever Cormac says, I'm siding with Cormac today with his birthday luck. But I think both teams have scored 7 goals each in this tournament. They're 2.3 games, 2.3 per game individually. I think it's worth looking at where these goals are actually coming from and why I think it sets up for a high scoring game. I mean, let's start with Mateus Cunha. I think Cormac and I, as United fans, we've been waiting for him to do this consistently. So now watching him do it at a World Cup for Brazil instead, the timing is it's very on brand. But 3 goals from just 4 shots on target. I mean, the conversion rate is extraordinary. Ancelotti dropped Igor Thiago to start Cunha, I think, and scoring twice in the first half against Haiti. It's a player in form. Vinicius has 4 goals as well, joint most by any Brazilian in the group stage. So I think that also on the Japan side, I mean, 7 goals is already the most that they have managed at a single World Cup. 10 different players have either scored or assisted. So it's another national record. I mean, Brazil, I don't know if they're built to grind out a clean sheet and whether they would rather just hunt for, that next goal. And Japan have enough through Ueda to score once, even in a loss. I mean, we look at the market there. So I'm also on over, and I'm with CalledIt on this one.
All right, now the question we've all been waiting for, the answer rather we've all been
Surfing,
waiting for.
surfing.
What is Cormac doing here?
I have to hit the Mateus Cunha dance first and foremost. We've seen it from
I
Manchester
think everyone's
United.
been doing it.
Look, I think Mateus Cunha, he's one of those players. You think of the James Rodriguez of the world, the players who are the breakout star. And of course, Mateus Cunha already playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. But to go from that to the world stage is something different. And I think that's what we're going to see at this World Cup. Now, that being said, we talk a lot about Mateus Cunha, and I've got a lot of praise for Mateus Cunha. But the other Brazilian star that deserves some praise as well, Vinicius Jr., he's one of those players, one of the most polarizing players in the world in this World Cup. There's so many questions about Rafinha, Vini. Will they actually show up for Brazil? Rafinha, I don't know where he is. Maybe he's still in Barcelona. But Vinicius Jr., he got on that plane to the United States, and he has been on fire. 4 goals so far in the World Cup, 1 assist. And not just that. If you look at the performances themselves, he scored in every single match. He's shown up in every single match. And I just think the link up between Cunha and Vinicius Jr. has been so good. And then on top of that, you look at Neymar coming back to fitness. And is it the Neymar of old? No. But what he provides on the pitch, just the confidence that Brazil can play with when they have Neymar on the pitch, I think that takes stress, pressure off of teammates' shoulders. And just, I still think that Neymar, look, he's older. He's maybe not as quick as he once was, but it's Neymar. It's Neymar at the World Cup. How could you not love it? Endrick is another strong choice off the bench. I know that Ancelotti has not been very eager to play Endrick. I've been seeing a lot of memes on X about Ancelotti not playing Endrick, but I think that, you know what, if they choose to use him, he's a very strong choice. And then again, as we were mentioning, 2.3 goals per match for both teams. So that's already smashing the 2.5 goals per match. But I think also, specifically with Brazil, not only are they scoring a lot, but they've actually underperformed their XG. They have 7.3 XG in this tournament so far, and they've underperformed. So if anything, they would be scoring more if they could finish their chances. So I actually believe that this could be a very high-scoring match. Now, a little bit is going to revolve around, I always say this, but like the first 10, 15 minutes of a match, they can tell you the whole story. They can tell you exactly what's going to happen in that match, because if both teams come out and they are not looking eager to play with the ball, they're not looking eager to get on the front foot, that changes things. But I truly believe in this match, especially if we see an early goal, we could be looking like we're playing basketball with the scoreline. We could be getting into those numbers.
Okay. Well, yeah, Maya, anything changed from what you heard from Cormac, or do we just feel that much better now that we got the birthday boy on the side of goals being scored?
No, I think he's right in saying that, Vinny, either people love him or hate him, and if you love him or hate him, I don't think you can undermine his talent. I mean, he's unbelievable. The performance that he's been putting out has been incredible, and I think that matchup, I'm so happy for Cunha that he's getting his moments surfing, So I think it's going to be a great game.
Can't wait. Well, Cormac, I want to ask you one more thing before we move on here, because I've asked you in the past and you've done great with it. And it's kind of from this in-game trading perspective, right? Because you brought up the point the first 10 to 15 minutes are going to tell you a lot of what's to come for the rest of the match more often than not. If it does start out a little bit slower and these nations are playing hesitant, would you suggest then looking to trade on the under if it's still sitting at that 2.5 spot? Would that be your recommendation? And again, we're not putting all the stake here, but is that where you would more lean toward then?
Yeah, again, I just feel like, especially in one of these matches here, right? So it kind of depends who concedes first, right? If Japan concede first, then I really think that you could see a high-scoring game, because obviously Brazil are the favorites. So if they concede first, it's not as though they won't still try and play for the win, but I don't think it necessarily changes their game plan that much, because they're probably coming into the match looking to be the dominant force, looking to hold the majority of the possession, I would assume, right? Whereas with Japan, they're probably expecting to be the more defensive side, probably on the back foot a little bit more. So if they do concede early, then they have to switch their whole game plan. They go from probably being the more defensive side to then going to probably trying to be the more attacking side, because they got to score a goal. They've got to make something happen. And they're not the favorites. Brazil only conceding 1 goal so far this tournament. So I do believe that, yeah, if you get past probably the first 20 minutes or so and it's still goalless, and especially it's not only about the goals, but of course, watching the football, if they're very hesitant, that neither team looking like they want to take risks, that is when you're going to have an idea of, yeah, this probably is not going to be a high-scoring affair.
Good to know. Good to know. Can't wait. Brazil, Japan. The team at Called It is siding with the over 2.5 goals in regulation. Again, they believe the true conviction should be at 50%. Currently, it's trading at 46%. So that is going to be trade number 1 of the run. $250 invested on over 2.5 goals between Brazil and Japan. These two are siding in that direction. Might as well make it the trio. I'm also going to be siding with you guys over 2.5 goals. We can't go against Cormac, Maya.
Come on, teamwork. Let's go.
That's right. Teamwork. Let's go. Come on. It's going to be easy peasy. We just need Brazil to get off to that hot start, and we will be off and running. Speaking of off and running, how about these African nations, guys? They have been off and running. 9 out of 10 made it through to the knockout stage, which leads us to talking about this market at CalledIt, the furthest advancing African nation. A lot to work with here, considering 90% of the nations made it through. As you can see, Morocco's at the top, trading at 32% to make it the farthest. Egypt at 24%. That price actually moved down. It was at about 20%, or rather moved up. They're becoming more and more favorites. 24% is where they reside, does Egypt. Senegal, 16%. Ivory Coast, 12%. Ghana, 9%. Congo, Dominican Republic, 5%. Cape Verde, 3%. Algeria, 8%. Get a little bit of love there in the market. What do we think here, guys? Maya, let's throw it to you. Where is the value to be had? Are you looking chalky? Are you looking deeper down the line? What stands out?
I mean, obviously here, now you have to look at the bracket. You have to look at who they're going to play next. What are the, the opportunities? I think that, you look, some of these have probably changed once they found out who they're going to play. I think Egypt, Australia, that's definitely affected their pricing. And I looked at this and I thought, okay, Senegal, I said before, they were one of my dark horses. I don't know if I'm fully convinced, a loss to Norway and France, and to get through with 3 points, you beat Iraq get a red card. It's not enough for me to fully back them. I think that Morocco, you're not getting much out of them if you're trading on them, obviously, but they're they're priced accordingly. I mean, they went to semifinals 2022, won AFCON 2025, came through Group C behind Brazil, I think, on 7 points with 2 wins and a draw. It's not a team that has scraped through. I think Hakimi, one of the best fullbacks in this tournament. I've also loved watching the 18-year-old Bouadi. I think he's been incredible. More touches than any other Moroccan player when he played against Brazil. I think the squad is deep. It's very experienced. It's getting better as the tournament go on. Of course, their round of 32 opponent is going to be Netherlands, and it's a tough draw on paper, I think. But Morocco have already held Brazil to a draw in this tournament. They know how to set up defensively. They've hurt teams on the counter. Netherlands have shown vulnerability in the back in the group stage. You have Van de Ven, you have Virgil back there. And then I was watching them play against Japan, and I thought, what are Japan doing playing this long ball across the top? They're never going to beat them in the back with those two giants. And then they scored that header, So it's clear that there is vulnerability at the back. And I think that among African nations, this is the team that I would back to the quarterfinals and potentially beyond. I mean, they have Germany, France, so it's gonna be tough, but not impossible. So I would back them.
Okay, Cormac, what say you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the fact that Egypt are second is just astonishing to me. That is a humongous surprise because, look, I believe that at least one African team will make it to the quarterfinals. Like at least one guaranteed, in my opinion, right? Are they the second favorite? Really? I mean, okay, Cape Verde, if they beat Argentina, we may as well just give them, I think let's give them favorites for the whole World Cup. If they beat Argentina, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Egypt, I do believe, probably first match of the round of 32, I think Egypt maybe have the easiest route there with Australia. But I mean, equally also Ghana, Algeria, 3 of the 8 teams in that kind of quarter of the bracket are all African teams. So I think that there's a chance there. I don't think it'll be Egypt because I think that even if they make it past one round, Argentina will take them out. Mm-hmm. You say Morocco, and here's my thing with Morocco. Look, I think that the Dutch have not been that convincing to me, and I think that Morocco have been more compelling, I think. But I just think Senegal, for me, if you actually are watching the football of the opponents, not just themselves. So you'd say Morocco, winners of AFCON. Maybe they won AFCON, but they didn't win AFCON on the pitch. They won AFCON off the pitch, right? So I believe Senegal versus Belgium. Belgium have looked a shell of themselves. They've not looked strong at all throughout this whole tournament. Whereas Senegal, you'd say okay, yeah, they lose to Norway. They lose to France. But Norway and France, I mean, France is the favorite for the tournament. They lost to the favorite of the tournament in a match that, again, the scoreline maybe doesn't exactly show this, but they were very competitive for the majority of that match. They were the better team in the first half. And Norway, against Norway as well, they lose by 1 goal. It was a close match. So I think it's hard for me to use either of those as something against Senegal. And of course, Senegal still make it through despite being in what I believe is the hardest group. Belgium, in what I think is a much easier group, struggle a bit more. I know they go through first, but they weren't very compelling. I think Senegal could beat Belgium. And then as much as I love the United States, I pray that we will beat Bosnia and then we can beat whoever we play there. Is it unbelievable to believe that Senegal could beat the US? No. So I actually think who's got the best chance to getting to the quarterfinals there? I would have to say Senegal. I'd have to say Senegal for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think Egypt is also a little bit of a surprise that they're, so high on this list. I think that the game against Iran, there were parts of the game where, Salah was just anonymous. And I think
Salah.
that, pardon?
Classic Salah.
Sorry, yeah, so I think that there was definitely shakiness in the squad, and it was a very, very tight game, and at some points it really could have gone either way. So I don't think that this is a team that I really have a ridiculous amount of confidence in going into this next round. So this is also quite a surprise for me that they're so high. Really wasn't expecting them. I thought Senegal would for sure be second on this list.
Do you think that Algeria or Ghana could go through? Because, like, okay, I do think Colombia will beat Ghana, although I think Colombia will beat Ghana. Algeria, I think, could beat Switzerland. But then again, like, there's two options there. If they both go through, then you've already got a team guaranteed to be in the quarterfinals. And so do you see, like, I think Algeria, Switzerland could definitely be one that Algeria wins. Do you see that one? How do you feel about those fixtures there?
Yeah, I think Algeria, Switzerland, for me, it's not one of those games where you think, yeah, it's clear. You know, it
Yeah.
really definitely could go Algeria's way. And I think that definitely we could see that matchup. I don't know. Colombia is a tough one for me. I was watching their game the other day, and you see brilliance in parts, you know, but it's a team
Mhm.
that at other points looks very shaky. So in these knockout games, I think that the pressure gets you, like we spoke about, Danny, at the beginning of the group stages. You know, you see these teams struggle a little bit, then they settle into it, and then you know you go knockout stages again, and it's very difficult. I mean, the Canada game yesterday, I was on the edge of my seat. So I think that would be really, really exciting.
Yeah, I feel like with Colombia, they have really impressed me. And so that's why I don't, it's hard because, again, obviously there's a good chance for some African teams to go further, but also Colombia, as you said, they're a bit of a volatile team. The thing that I do like
Mm,
about them, though, is that they are so relentless. Like they're not a team that like slows down the play. They are like physically they're incredible. Like the way that they run. I mean, I've not seen the statistics of, actually I think the US has maybe ran the most at the World Cup so far. But I
okay.
would assume Colombia is one of the highest running teams at the World Cup, and it's just like they're one of the teams that every single time they have the ball, they are running with the ball. Like they don't stop and slow down. They play at pace. And so, yeah, like maybe they're going to make mistakes, but especially against other teams that probably aren't going to have the strongest defense and are mistake prone as well. That's where I think that they actually can cause those upsets. They can cause, just trouble for defenders. And so, yeah, I don't know. I do still think Senegal will probably go the farthest just because I know obviously if Morocco beat the Netherlands, Canada, they would be huge favorites to beat Canada. But I don't know. I'm not so convinced of Morocco. I know that a lot of people really like them as a dark horse for the tournament overall, and I know that they've done well. Obviously, they are AFCON winners, and they did really well at the last World Cup. But I just feel like I'm not fully convinced yet. So I would have to say Senegal for me. Yeah, we'll probably do the best.
Pretty good path there for Senegal as you laid out, Cormac. And now you got me interested on them too, because originally I wasn't looking at some of these other teams like the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ivory Coast, Cape Verde, not as much. I was looking at Ghana. I mean, they got the witch doctor throwing curses out there, so it's not necessarily a nation I want to go against, and trading at only 9%, certainly appealing, but Egypt was also one that stood out to me, just the playmakers on that team. But like you said, some key pieces maybe not showing up. And then assuming they get by Australia, I mean, Argentina, if you're going up against is certainly not favorable. So you got to think of more. And of course, just the first round, as you guys laid out so nicely. And Senegal does seem like with the value, with the potential path, whether it's the United States or Bosnia, that price of plus 489, 16% trading, I think that is worth a look. So I certainly like your guys' path and vision there with Senegal potentially. So either way, plenty to trade on there. 9 out of 10 nations from Africa making it through. Anything else you wanted to add there, Cormac? Any last tidbits for these teams?
I do have one more because I feel like I would be doing a disservice to Amad Diallo if I didn't say Ivory Coast. I will say probably I believe like are in contention or like stronger than some of these other teams that we've mentioned. I just also see their route way more difficult. Like to face Norway first, like Norway I think are really strong too. Yeah. And then you also look at they're going to play the winners of Brazil, Japan. So Brazil, who I presume will go through, playing Brazil and Norway, like those are going to be two really difficult teams where they would be the underdog in both of them. That being said, though, if you actually look at the quality of not only the football but just like the individual brilliance that you see from Amad Diallo, from Diomande, yeah, I just think that they're not one to be looked past, and I think that they could be the team that causes the upsets. They could be the team that really surprises people as we go into the knockout stages. Yeah.
I think that this is one of the disadvantages of this type of format. Of course, I'll, there are arguments that some teams have a much easier route than others. And so, because you have so many teams making it through to this round, it's true. And it is quite a shame because I agree with Cormac in saying that I've really enjoyed watching Ivory Coast, but to be matched up to Norway, I mean, tomorrow, like it's early days for them, So it's tough. I would have loved to watch them play more. I mean, it's not over till it's over, but it's going to be a difficult one for them.
Yeah, that is for sure. But either way, a lot to work with, a lot to trade on. And again, the furthest African nation, you get 9 chances to choose and plenty of trading opportunities there at Kalshi. Guys, before we wrap this shindig up, we always like to end it as usually on a high note. It ends up being that way. So we just wanted at this point, this stage in the World Cup, a couple weeks through, heading into the round of 32. What have been some of your favorite moments, some of your favorite storylines, fairy tale endings potentially you have in store with some of these nations? What has made the top of your list so far? Now, before you guys answer, I do want to throw out a few of mine. I mentioned them before, but I'm just going to throw out a few that have stood out to me. The first is the love for ranch dressing. This has been the absolute best storyline, I think, that everybody coming from Europe just loves ranch because I love ranch. It's my favorite condiment. I use it on a ton of things. So to see everybody else adopting it, I'm enamored with it. Cormac, you can probably attest to this. You're a Midwestern guy like myself. I'm sure you're a big ranch fan as well.
A little bit of ranch with some cheese curds. Is there anything better on this planet? I'm not sure.
Dynamic duo right there. Maya, I know you have been in the States beforehand, but are you a ranch advocate as well?
Yeah, I love ranch. I love ranch, and I don't know why no one has brought it to Europe. Like it's everyone comes here, they're like, it's so delicious, it's so amazing. Somebody needs to bring it over because
So there we
it's
go.
really
That's what they're saying. They're maybe bringing it over now. Huge market untapped, Maya.
yeah, exactly. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do
There
it.
we
Maybe I'll
go.
put a patent on it before
Ooh.
anyone does it. It's incredible.
Okay, we love to hear that. The other one I got is when in Texas, the Japanese fans were just enamored themselves with how big everything is in Texas. And just this interview that's been going viral and some other ones. I've loved this content from the Japanese fans going nuts in Texas who could speak just a little bit of English, but were raving about Texas. That was great. And then my other one is the Koreans and the Mexicans going nuts down there south of the border. I mean, they've just adopted one another and they were going absolutely nuts. This guy's, repping the Mexico jersey, just getting embraced by everybody else. Here's another video, they're all family down there now. It's like the Scottish on the East Coast. But these have been some of my favorite moments. I'll leave the stage to you guys now. Maya, let me throw it to you because, of course, you're coming from overseas. You've been in the U.S. in the past. What has really stood out to you this time around from your trek back to the States?
I mean, for sure, I can agree with the Japanese. I saw people are mentioning Buc-ee's, like the petrol station. That is one of the most unbelievable things. My cousins are from Texas, and they picked us up from the airport and took us directly to a Buc-ee's, and we were like, oh my gosh, it's so big. There's everything you could possibly want in here. It's ridiculous. I think for me, the moment that stood out for me, I think this Lumumba Vea from DR Congo, famous for standing completely motionless in the games, dressed in colorful suits. I mean, he's completely still the whole game with his arm raised, but he made it to North America. He got through Mexico and then was denied entry into the US for the Uzbekistan game. It's the biggest game in Congolese football history, and his visa was denied. So what did they do? They found a replacement. They got a 28-year-old fan named Kabwendi, stepped in, put on the suit, walked into the stadium in Atlanta, stood, did the same thing. He said, I want to keep the culture going. He didn't come here, but we have to represent our country. I mean, imagine being the original guy. You're watching from Mexico. Your country's making history for the first time. There's someone in Atlanta wearing your suit, doing your bit and getting your moment. I mean, you've been replaced by someone standing still. I think that's a specific kind of heartbreak. I'm so happy for them. You know, they reached the World Cup knockouts for the first time in history. The understudy, maybe he saved the show, who knows? So I think that's an incredible story.
No question. Cormac, yourself?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a little bit of a sad story in some ways, but also, yeah, a happy story. Happy story in the fact that they found a replacement, but just a sad story that was even a problem in the first place. But for me, I have two stories. One of them is more off the pitch, and I'll keep that one short. But I have loved, I don't know if either of you have seen this, but the Lawrence, Kansas, where I believe, what is it, Kansas, University of Kansas, is, they have welcomed the Algerian team with loving open arms. And I just have found it amazing to see maybe a side of Americans, a group of Americans that I wouldn't have expected to be so open, so loving towards, you know, people from outside of Kansas, to really embrace them. And I've just been so happy to see that. But even furthermore, my one that I think of is actually on the pitch. And I think of Team Canada, their story for this World Cup. Now, look, I'll say it. I'm biased. I'm half Canadian, if you didn't know it. But I think that this has been a momentous time for Canadian football, in the fact that you got to think, before this World Cup, let me tell you about Team Canada. Before this World Cup, they've qualified for two before this World Cup. 1986, where they didn't even score a goal. They lost all three games. Then in 2022, they get their technically they score two goals. One of them was an own goal, but they score their first goal themselves, still never getting a win. And coming into this World Cup now, in their first ever game against Bosnia, again, as a host nation, in their first ever game against Bosnia, they get a draw. So their first ever point at the World Cup. Then in Qatar, or against Qatar, excuse me, they win 6-0, their first ever win. And what a way to do it, 6-0. But equally also, Ismail Kone has his leg snapped in half during the match, so a really low point as well. To go on from that, they do lose to Switzerland, but they advance to the knockouts for the first time ever. So already, first point ever in the World Cup, first win ever in the World Cup, now first ever time advancing to the knockouts. And then yesterday against South Africa, it was Eustáquio, I believe is how you say it, Eustáquio, who scores the 92nd minute winner. He wore the captain's armband as the match started, scores the 92nd minute winner. And to me, that is the biggest moment ever in Canadian football, Canadian men's football, at least the biggest moment ever, the most important moment ever. And yeah, I'm over the moon with that. I think that much like many other teams who are, yeah, of course, with the expanded format, with the expanded teams even making it to the knockout rounds, of course, you're going to see more teams that are going to be doing first time scoring a goal in the knockouts, first time advancing. Whatever it is, I'm really happy with Team Canada. And especially, again, as one of the host nations, I think that adds a little bit extra to the storyline as well.
Yeah, I think it adds so much to the World Cup atmosphere when the host countries are doing well. It's so nice. I mean, I'm in Vancouver right now, and we were driving past the FIFA Fan Festival, and the lines just to watch the Canada game were just huge. They were all the way down the road. And I think that's so nice to have people excited to watch the team, because like Cormac said, you know, maybe they haven't been renowned for having the best football team in the world, you know? So I think it's a great moment to see them doing well. It's really exciting. It's exciting for the people. It's exciting for people who maybe didn't watch a lot of football before, but you know, they love the community feel of it, that everyone's cheering for, you know, Team Canada. So I agree. And I think the Algerians in Kansas, I mean, I saw that it's amazing. They've painted their faces like the Algerian colors, and they had an interview, and one man from Kansas said, you know, I actually feel a little bit Algerian today. And I thought that was just so great. It's so amazing.
I agree 100%. And I think you actually touched on a great point there too. I think especially, obviously, again, I'm biased. I'm half Canadian, half American. But I think especially what makes me feel so happy about this is not only obviously that the host nations are doing well, two host nations that typically aren't, you know, World Cup giants. But I think furthermore, there's been other countries, for example, South Africa, where they have, you know, they hosted the World Cup and they were not necessarily World Cup giants before hosting. Same probably with Qatar. But I do think that they also, like, I would say percentage wise, and this is just my perception, they probably have more of an interest in football than the United States and Canada. And that's what is so special and heartwarming for me as a Canadian American who loves football, to see this, to have, to grow the sport in North America. For me, this is incredible, because I saw actually Team Canada posting about this, and I saw Jesse Marsh, the manager of Canada, speaking about this after the match, but saying, like, you have a chance to be a Canadian hero, like a hero. And obviously every nation has that, but I think, Cunha doing well at this World Cup, there's 100 other Brazilians for them to look up to. But when you score a goal in the knockout rounds, Eustáquio, like, that is something that will inspire young kids around the US, around Canada, to start following this sport, who would have never thought of following it before. And so hopefully that will lead to the growth of this sport in the United States and in Canada. And yeah, that's been very, very happy for me. Very good moment.
Absolutely. It's been a blast. The content has been incredible, and it's been just, again, so heartwarming to see everybody embracing one another. And that's why we looked forward to this segment. But what we'll be looking forward to even more is everything that Cormac hates about the World Cup thus far. And we'll see what Maya's got a nitpick about it too. That we will talk about later down the line. So make sure you mark your calendars when these two are together the next time, because we will certainly get some good tidbits from both of these two about some things that have just been rubbing them perhaps the wrong way, what has transpired thus far at the 2026 World Cup. But she is Maya Campy and he is Cormac Lichty. Make sure you follow them on the social channels, Maya.pitchside, Cormac_United. Appreciate you both hopping on as always, and appreciate everybody tuning in to another edition of On the Record, presented here by CalledIt. And in case you missed it, once again, at the beginning of the show, we dished out the daily call, which was in the first match today for the round of 32, Brazil and Japan. Over 2.5 goals scored in regulation. CalledIt believes the conviction should be at 50%. Right now it's trading at 46%. So there is value to be had in the eyes of the team at CalledIt, and that is where the $250 for the run is going to be invested on, and hopefully moving it on to trade number 2 once we get there tomorrow. But for more content, folks, as always, make sure you check out the site, CalledIt.media. Make sure you follow along on Instagram, CalledIt.media, CalledIt_media on X. You know where to find us on all the social channels. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's always appreciated. And make sure you come back tomorrow, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern. Joining will be Joe Vitale and John Sampanero, and I will be there as well, and we will have plenty more World Cup to discuss. But until then, as we always say, best of luck with your trades, and we will see you tomorrow on the record.